really excited that we are getting to have a conversation today with Mike Janzen, who wrote, composed all of the music that we hear in the Psalms microfilms, and I was gonna say "And Reflections." That's the old title. Oh my goodness, I'm going way back now.
Yes, Krystle, you're way back at the beginning of this project.
That's probably because we brought Mike in at the beginning of this project.
Right at the beginning.
Right?
Yeah.
Right at the beginning.
Well, yeah,
Jason, why don't you tell us
the incredible thing about the Psalms and Mike is, and I'm sure he'll share a little bit about this, but he has this deep and wonderful and powerful double album on the Psalms that came out of his time of real darkness, having a concussion, and he's actually working on volume 3 right now. And I found it really interesting that the Psalms was both on Mike's heart and then on my heart and our hearts. And I think it really speaks to our season, our world season right now, coming out of a time of fear and confusion. That the Psalms really is the engine of the heart, the way that it's composed and designed to help us to really feel and engage with where we're at and engage with the eternal. And so there's no better person. First of all, I would work with Mike on anything. I love working with Mike. He's both an incredible guy and one of the most remarkable musicians that I've ever encountered anywhere. So inviting him into this project was very easy, and he made all of the Psalms even more incredible. And so, yeah, I'm just really, really thrilled that we get to chat with him about that process right now.
Yeah. So without any further ado, let's bring Mike in to our conversation.
Woo! Michael Janzen!
Hey, good morning.
Hey, buddy.
Or afternoon or evening, depending.
Yeah, we're not telling
what time
anybody.
Are you watching this?
It depends on whether it's daylight savings time or not as well. So, although
Okay.
I heard they're getting rid of that, so who knows?
Oh,
yeah,
praise
okay, good.
Jesus.
That's good to know.
Please do.
How are you,
That's
Mike?
my vote.
I'm doing great. I'm it's a beautiful day over here, and I get to talk to you guys, so this is great.
So
Well,
fun.
it's
We're
wonderful
thrilled we can have
having
you here, man. I'm just really so much tremendous work that you did on this project, and looking forward to unpacking it a bit with you.
So, what brought the Psalms, Mike, for you? What was stirring for you when we came to you and said, we're doing this project? By the way, you stole our original title because we were calling this the Psalms Project, Jason and I. And then Jason calls me up one day and says, so Mike's doing a project on the Psalms. Isn't that interesting? But he's called it the Psalms Project officially. So
Great minds.
I was a little miffed. I had to repent.
Well, yeah, well, and I got an email just recently from someone saying, why in the world did you call it the Psalms Project? There's like 4 other Psalms projects out there. So, yeah, so I might not have the corner on it either.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So what went through your mind when Jason told you about our project and how we want to collaborate with you on this project? What was that like for you?
Well, my first thought was, well, great, I'll just get to use my, all the Psalms. I'd done just 2 albums of Psalms I just written. I thought I'm just going to use all the same stuff. This would be the easiest project ever. And then I realized pretty fast that none of them worked. and they didn't need words either, most of them. So yeah, then we had to sort of go back to the drawing board. And, a lot of it was a collaboration with Jason almost on the whole thing. Just, trying ideas, and sometimes they worked first time, and sometimes a bunch of times actually they didn't. And then we just sort of, Jason would throw out, how about trying this one in gospel mode, or try, think, sort of hip hop on this one, or, that kind of thing. So, and then we'd sort of just launch into it and see what stuck.
Oh, sorry, I was muted there for a second. This project, as you said, is every psalm is so different. What was that like as a composer then for you to kind of have to bring something new every single time? Like there was no, or was there a theme of a through line for you as you were composing? Like, I just feel like this is so different compared to like doing a film series or like a show or something like that, where they're like, this is the tone for like the entire thing, and now we just want you to like do riffs of the same style or same musical notes, or like what was that like for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like, often a project will be much more in the same flavor. So, talking to Jason at the beginning, we sort of thought we might do that when we worked on Breathe a few years ago. Everything was like piano, and we used a looping pedal, but it was all pretty simple with piano. So, we thought we might find some kind of a through line for this too. And they actually, each microfilm ended up being its own thing, but there's definitely a tie that goes through it. And I think there's a sense of each one. There's a bit of mystery in each one, and there's some tension in each one, and that goes through all of them. And probably because I'm the composer, there's probably a lot more similarities than I think. But there's definitely this sense of, as people are going through the Psalms in the film, they almost start in this place of desolation or disorder, and slowly, as these Psalms are said and felt and prayed, they slowly get to a place of more peace, often in a lot of them. But what I find so remarkable about the project is the Psalms are these deep, heartfelt cries that if you've ever been injured or gone through a really hard thing, you just don't have any prayers or words to say to God. Sometimes you're literally at the bottom, and the Psalms, and what this captures so well is that the entry point to the Psalms is not having it together, but rather it's often that things are crumbling around you, and you're sort of desperate, and you come to the Psalms and you can read them and pray them and take them in, and they slowly over time go deep inside of you and sort of change your perspective.
Hmm.
Mike, would you speak
Yeah.
a little bit to that experience, like with you coming out of your concussion a number of years back? Because I think really that's one of the reasons why both your album, the two that you've already done, and the next one that you're working on, is so incredible and so deep, is you actually living the thing that you just talked about. So can you just like unpack that a little bit for us? Because I think it's really significant for the audience to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the short version is, for those who don't know, I had a really serious head injury back in 2016, where I just got up in the middle of the night and took a drink of water and literally fainted instantly, and hit my face right into the tile floor. And like a good Manitoba prairie boy who played hockey growing up, I just went right back to bed. And the next morning, I got up and felt a little woozy, but as I looked around, I realized nothing looked the same. And that began a very long journey of 3 years, 4 years of feeling pretty miserable. And every time I tried to be normal or be myself, it just hurt too much. So I was really stuck on a couch for a few years, just resting and doing, some basic therapy and playing piano very quietly for a few minutes a day. And so the Psalms were these lifelines for me, where, I would be on my couch and I'd be like, okay, what am I going to do today? I've done my eye exercises. I got 7 more hours to kill. And so I'd pick up my phone. My Bible app was on my phone, and I didn't know where to go. And so I thought, well, my friend had asked me way back to start working on a Psalms project. I thought maybe I'll try that. But I
Mm.
just couldn't even see more than like a sentence or two, at a time on the phone. So I just sort of squint and look at it and try to grab a few verses. And one of the first ones I grabbed was out of Psalm 42, which is, by day the Lord directs his love, at night his song is with me. And it's a long psalm, which is great, but I just basically grabbed onto those two verses. That's all I had time before I got too dizzy. And I just sat on the couch for hours and a few days, and slowly a melody began to sit with me. And that prayer I used over and over and over the first few months in some very dark days. But I would just breathe in the words, the Lord is like his love is with me and sustains me, even when I don't feel like it. And at night, in the really hard and dark times where you don't know where you're going to land up, his song is with you. Somehow there's a melody or a resonance of his love that stays with you in the hard times. And it really helped me, first of all, realize sort of who I am, and where I was at, that things were tough, but that God wouldn't desert me. And it also helped me sort of understand more of who God was in the hard times. And I would literally breathe that in and out, every day for the next, I don't know how long, 6-7 months. So yeah, the Psalms became just very, very crucial to me. And as I started feeling better, melodies came, and I could work more on looking at more than just one verse, and sometimes actually a whole chapter eventually, and just let them sink in. And I think that's what the microfilms do so well is you can see in each character that these words need to sink in. They need to get to a deeper spot. And there's a wrestle, and there's an unbelief, and there's a doubt, and there's all this stuff going on. But as the words are absorbed, they sink into sort of the deeper spot of who we are, and that God loves us. So yeah, the Psalms were, I'm just so grateful for these prayers that allow us to express every possible emotion on the planet.
Yeah.
It's good. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was you mentioned the breath, the breathing in and breathing out. And Krystle and I have gone through all 7 of them and done actor reflections, like our commentary on kind of behind the scenes. But one of the things I think that we see all the way through both the performances, the way it's shot, and especially in your music is this idea of breath and breathing in the psalm and breathing out the gunk to the place where we actually get to actually have a holistic breathing again, where we're breathing in God, or we're breathing in, allowing ourselves to find the breath, and then eventually after the gunk is gone, then we actually are breathing out peace. And I think that we see that all the way through your music in this, and I just love you to just comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think often with picture in general, when there's something that's very important to be said on screen, often that's when the music takes a breath or takes a break. And I think it was really important in this project, Jason. I'm thinking of the first one that you did on Psalm 23. You had these pauses. You'd be walking down the alley, and then you'd pause and look at the camera. Then you'd walk down the alley, and then you'd pause. And you walk down the alley, and I think those pauses were so important musically too, to sort of pull back and not to take them over. When I was a younger composer, I often would try to fill everything, fill every space, but actually it's in the pauses and in the breath that is the real cool stuff happens. And you'll see that too on great, films or anything that's orchestrated super well. When the music pulls back, often is when there's some really important stuff on screen going on. So yeah, I think that happens on all of them. And you probably, I'm guessing, did a lot of directing with people, getting them to breathe and slow down as they were speaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that true?
Maybe.
Yes, it is. Yeah, we were really intentional about, even in the rehearsal process, talking about the significance of breath, and then really had that invitation to each of the actors to find the breath in the psalm and in the moment and when we were shooting. And then it ended up, and I don't think it was directed, I don't think I directed it exactly like this, but there's a moment in, I think, every single psalm where somebody has this lovely exhale, like Eden has it at the end of hers, Corey has it, JJ has it, I have it, like they're all of us. I think Krystle has it as well. Yeah, you do right at the end on the dock. Yeah, and so I think everybody has this moment of they've talked and walked themselves through these moments in the Psalms, and as a result, the full release happens at the end. And there's something incredible about that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, if I can jump in on that, like Krystle, when you did yours, like it's so interesting how you started like hyperventilating, right? Like your character had this sense of everything was falling apart around them, and you're on this dock with a beautiful lake behind, and you can't catch your breath, right? And yet, like you said, Jason, at the end, there's a calm settles in, and eventually that's restored. That peace is restored. with breath.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love that one, Krystle. That um, how you did
Thank
that,
you.
and how, and the pacing of it, and what that communicates. Because I think people really will resonate with that feeling of like, just every now and then in life, it all hits the fan, right? And yeah, that it was a
Oh
really
yeah.
remarkable piece.
Yeah, and I
And
think, you know,
go ahead, Krystle. Sorry.
sorry. I was gonna say I think the place of breath is so important because we do use breath to control or to hold in emotion, or we like, you know, just like let it all spew out, and you know, we lose our breath. You know, there's so many things in life where actually this is, I don't know if this is interesting to anyone but myself, but you know, I've tried this year. I thought I'm gonna learn to run because I'm more of a sprinter than a like a marathon runner. And I'm like, I'm gonna run 5K. You know, I don't know why, but I want to. And one of the things in this journey of learning to run is that I've realized that I don't know how to breathe, and I would almost start to panic because I was like, oh, I'm holding my breath, and you know, breath is just so vital to everything. And I love, really truly love it. I think in my psalm you've experienced it so clearly, and in Corey's psalm as well. Those are the ones that stand out to me with your music, Mike, in terms of how your score did in supporting the breath and allowing that breath to really truly come through. It's really in all of them. Those are just the ones that are top of mind right now for me. But yeah, the way that you composed, and the way that you experienced the psalm, and then you brought the music in, just truly accentuated the breath that was already there and gave more space and more meaning to it, which I just think is amazing, because it really just usher people in to this place of Selah, and this place of like, let's come with us on this journey. Don't just like watch it, but like truly experience this personally, and let us draw you in on this journey together. And I love all of your music that you've done on all our projects, and your personal music as well that you've composed and put out there. But I love how the collaboration came together on the Psalms microfilms.
Yeah, and Jason can take some good credit for that. Like with your piece, Krystle, there was that beautiful spot where suddenly the music really linked up with the breathing, and actually the breathing
Mm-hmm.
became part of the percussion, right, of the track, which was really
Yeah.
neat because I could pull out some of the percussion I'd put in, and some of the extra instruments I'd put in, as I noticed your breath actually was the thing that carried it. So
Mm.
Jason Jason can talk
Wow.
about where he got the idea for that track, because he sent me a text saying, "Hey, why don't you try this approach?" So
Yeah, it was so funny. I was watching Crystal's thing, and the truth of it was, Krystle knows this. I've told her, I was like, that is a
I do.
lot to
Yeah.
watch. Like, that is so intense,
I'm a
that
lot to
piece.
handle.
Well, she's a lot to handle, but but I was like, I don't know how to make this make sense for an audience, because it's so much. It's so honest and so real. And I was just having this moment of like, okay, God, like where are we supposed to go here? And then into my mind came like 1920s
Yeah.
female gospel music, and I was like, I don't even know what that is. So I started doing like Google research on who's like a 1920s gospel singer, and I found this handful of women that were singing, and it was crackly and wonderful, and I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if this is the way into the music for Crystle's
Mm-hmm.
piece. And so I remember sending you this text, "Hey Mike, what do you think about this?" And you wrote back and went, okay, like all right. And then you had a go at it, and then you said, "This is probably my favorite quote from you in the whole working with you the whole time was." This is either going to be the best thing I ever wrote, or it's going to be a complete pile of garbage. And it ended up being incredible. And it was incredible because you were able to harness the really the soul of that music, and
Mm.
tie that kind of beautiful freedom type music that was happening in the 20s really raw and rough and beautiful, and tie it into Krystle's work so well. And when those two
Mm-hmm.
things came together, all of a sudden the whole psalm opened up for me, and I'm like, wow, this is so incredible. And I
Yeah.
absolutely, I think that may be my favorite music from all so far in all the psalms, because it ties everything together in such a remarkable way that didn't have that potent, like, it had the intensity, but it didn't have the trend. It just, I don't even know how to explain it other than to
Yeah.
say, when I heard
It
it
works
together with
so
what Krystle
well.
did, it opened the whole project up to me, that particular
Yeah.
psalm.
And were
Yeah.
you
I
shocked,
think
Krystle, when you
that,
heard it?
sorry, say that again,
What's that,
Mike?
Mike?
Oh, Krystle, were you shocked when you first heard it, or what was your first reaction?
Yeah, when Jason said that, and I think he sent me a similar music sample that he sent to you, Mike, and I was like, whoa, okay, cool. Yeah, I love this. I have no clue how it's going to work together. But I trust Jason. I trust you. I think this will be amazing. And I think for me, and again, you know, my psalm, and I think also when you experience Corey's psalm in a different way without the music, like everything is there, but then when you have it with the music, it's just like it's a case study and like why you put music and really thoughtful music and don't just grab stock music to when scoring films and doing film projects, because it just takes it to a whole new place. And so I wasn't shocked, but I was pleasantly surprised. And
Yeah.
when I heard it for the first time, like I cried because I was just like, this is incredible. I think I was actually buying running shoes when Jason texted me the the first draft of this with of my song with the score. And I was like, with actually, it was my friend that was helping me buy a pair of running shoes. Um, and I just started tearing up. And I was like, I have to show this to you because I've been working on this, but the music is just so amazing. And that's a poor reenactment, but it was it was truly just so moving to me. And I think too, with all of the music, and I can say this too with JJ's because I know JJ, he's my brother, um, is that if all the music just felt like it tapped in to a new level and layer of who the performer is. And like this whole project is about, not just coming and performing, it's about coming and like bringing a true, honest moment. And so it's a bit different, right? It's having the collaboration, even with the actors, which is not always typical, as we all know, working in films. And yeah, I just felt like your music, like Holy Spirit knew. Knew what to do, knew what to impart, because it just felt like such a just a deeper, honest level of who each performer is, and that music just speaks to me. I love that style of music. I don't usually listen to like the 1920s, but like the gospel and the black music. I know one of my favorite playlists is actually on CBC radio app, and it's called the Harlem Mix. I love listening to that. It's all that kind of music and that style. And the fact that Jason was like, let's go there and use that kind of music in the song was just, for me, it was just like, oh yeah, this is so cool, because it's another level and layer to who I am. And I felt that for almost all of the songs, the music that you composed, Mike, was just like another level and layer to the performer, and bringing out
That's great.
a larger truth. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
So
What I
Mike,
love about there's such a great juxtaposition in the music, like, and it's a
mhm.
good reminder to young artists, composers, performers, to not always. Sometimes, like, in music, sometimes your very first thing you come up with is the best,
Mhm.
but there's also a whole nother thing of pushing through to something better, that can
Yeah.
happen. And I think artistically there's a push here. Like, Jason, you didn't just say, okay, that's fine. You had sort of feelings, and you use the music even to play off, and sometimes not be opposing, but bring something different that wasn't actually on screen. And I think that sort
Mhm.
of makes these really special, because you know, there's real artistry to what's going on there with a lot of things. I wouldn't. There's other ones too, Jason, that you said, how about this? And I was like, oh, no way. And then I tried it and I was like, oh, okay.
Wesley's.
So anyway,
Wesley's was that
it's
one
good.
too.
It's a good reminder to push through, right? Artistically push through and try things, explore, see what happens, create. It's good.
Absolutely.
Mike, I'm curious well, I already know the answer to this, but so I was gonna say which is your favorite psalm, but I already know that it's Psalm 139, Eden's Psalm. But would you mind maybe sharing with us why it's your favorite psalm?
Yeah, Psalm 139 for me has always been one of those life chapters or verses. There was always something really special growing up about, being known, being shaped, formed. When I was born, I had like a really bad, my whole stomach is all cut up because I was supposed to die, and I had this ruptured diaphragm, and all my stuff that was supposed to be down here was all up in my lungs, so my one lung wasn't developed. And so right from the get-go, I sort of always felt like life was a miracle. I didn't take it for
Mm-hmm.
granted. Even growing up, I thought, I'm not sure how long I'm going to live. Like, who knows when this thing will come back? And there was always a bit of unknown about life, but there was this sense of, you're created, you're known, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, God's love will follow you there. And that always made life feel pretty special to me, specifically that chapter. Um, so, and I think, yeah, and growing up like anyone in their teenage years, there's lots going on, and you don't always know who you are, and you don't always know if you're accepted, or you're struggling to sort of prove who you are. And so Psalm 139 really, really grounds you into that everything about you is loved by God and created, and that He's got you no matter what you go through. So, and then I also love to run. Okay, well, I'm not that good of a runner, Krystle, a bit like you, but
I'm not
I
either.
do
I'm not
love
either.
I love being in motion. I just love being in motion. I love sports. I love hiking. I love being outside. I love swimming. I love lakes and oceans, snorkeling. So
Mm-hmm.
anything in motion, and I often experience God's voice when I'm in motion. We used to go down with a group called Arrow down to Georgia in the mountains there, and I would always go for a walk at this place called Windshape Center in the mountains. And as I was walking, I was always so surprised at how quickly God sort of came close, when often I felt like in the city or other places I was struggling with that. And so I've always experienced a sense of, well, just go for a walk, and I start to listen and hear, and it's easier to pray. so so seeing Eden, who is a great runner, going through what I love, the forest, running
Mm-hmm.
and breathing and experiencing God's goodness in Psalm 139 is just sort of the perfect, mix of things for me in my life. And I've many times I'd watch that and I got lots of tears flowing, because it just hit something really deep in me. And it's also really beautifully filmed, I think. It's not easy to capture someone running and what that feels like, and then the camera sometimes expands out really wide, and you get the sense of what you would see when you're actually out in nature. You see big sky, and when you're on the lake, you see a huge sky. And so there's something about that too that gets us out of our own inwardness.
Mm-hmm.
So I just love it. And I think Eden also, the performance too, is just, I know she hasn't done a lot of acting, but there's something so heartfelt and sincere about how she
Yeah.
says the words and how she experiences the song. So that also, having two daughters of my own, getting a little teary eyed right now, but there's something really great about that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I love hearing the stories of why certain songs impact people. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. I really appreciate it. That is so good. Oh, Jason, what's your next question for Mike?
Well, I just feel like you and I, the three of us we could stay on here all day. And just,
Yeah.
there's so much. From even before when, so Mike did these incredible albums. So go over, check it on your Spotify or Apple Music, Psalms Project, Mike Janzen, and unpack that. But also head over to his YouTube channel, because you've got some incredible stuff that we filmed at a what do you call that? It was like a retreat center / farm / recording area.
Yeah, it's called the Abbey. The Abbey.
The Abbey. And there was a kind of you had invited a handful of us to come and sing as the choir in that, and there was just a real spirit. And this was, I guess this was it was pre-pandemic, right? Just slightly,
Yes,
Right
or was it
before,
right
yeah.
in there? I can't remember.
yeah.
It's all blurred. But there, what I really loved about it, besides the music, was the notion of, and you and I, Mike, have talked about this many times through the years, the notion of what happens when we collaborate and when we come together on something significant. And I know it's been a hallmark of your work, and certainly it's on my heart and our heart as well, to stay in that collaborative space. But I think one of the greatest delights for me in this project, more than any other project, because we've brought so many more people in, has been really asking people to bring their whole self into the collaborative process of whether it's the actors or working with Tad, our film partner, co-directing. I don't know camera angles and lenses and stuff like that. My wheelhouse is around working with actors. And so, and knowing what the shot will look like, but not knowing how to get there. So Tad and I working together, collaborating was awesome. And then, Krystle's not only an incredible actor, but she's just logistically amazing. So her collaborating on the production side and Wayne on the sound side, and then getting to work with you. You and I did a live show recently, a couple of weeks ago, and I'm always just kind of stunned what happens when you and I get in a room together. It must be because we're both Mennonites or something like that. I don't know, or maybe because we both almost died at birth, and we're united in our suffering or our pain or something. I don't know what it is. But I really, there's something that is tremendously incredible about the way that collaboration has happened in this project. And I think part of that is me watching the way you collaborated for your Psalms project, and the openness that you had to bring, with Steve Bell was there at the Abbey, and a bunch of other people, but you just sat in a real place of humility in that. And kind of, you had the vision, but you invited people into the process. And I think I learned a lot. I am continuing to learn a lot from the way you did that. And so I would love for you to maybe have a little conversation about collaboration and the creative process, because I really feel like our project is better and deeper because of collaboration.
So true.
Yeah, I would agree. Like I love, right when we talked first about your project, you mentioned that, I asked how did you direct it? And you said, oh, well, I first went to each person and asked them which one they might want, and then sort of how they might go through it. And it sounded like it was just such a wonderful process, which is quite rare, I think. And I know as a songwriter and composer, like, there's a part of me that doesn't want anyone to hear anything I'm doing until it's good. And because it's just, if it's really bad, like, some people have ears to hear that. They hear your bad track and they're like, oh, that could be good. There's a nugget in there. But there's a lot of people who are just like, wow, that Mike did that. Oh, that's bad. So there is this fear of, like, collaboration inside of me, but I also know it's often the right thing to do. And I'm working, like, right now I'm working on Psalms Volume 3, and I'm collaborating with a producer, when the first two volumes I basically mostly produced myself. But there's something special that's happening now with, I was at a studio yesterday, and he's just all day, like, coming up with ideas and trying different things and trying different loops and trying different sounds, and all day, sometimes 8 hours straight, we're just going I'm watching him going through sounds. I might chime in here and there. And he's taking my rough sketch and he's starting to fill it in. And there could be something
Mm.
very scary about that, right? Like don't touch that. You know, I know where it's going. I know where it could go, and I want to go there. But when you're actually open to collaborating, it is so interesting because the thing takes a new shape.
Yeah.
And the Psalms weekend that you were talking about, for me, I had been like in this concussion state for a few years, and I've been writing all these songs. And I had a bunch of songs I thought they might be okay, but I didn't know. And so
Mm.
part of the process was, first of all, I didn't know if I could even make it through a day without getting really, really super dizzy and having to rest for a week. But I booked this weekend and I pulled a whole bunch of friends who had been through this journey with me. So at least there was a safety net of, I think they all sort of like me and believe in me and they know the journey that we've been on as a family. So that felt really special. And then these songs in the Songs Project were very precious to me. And I don't describe all my material that way because some material you're composing and it doesn't sink in long enough to be close. But all these songs like had gotten me through a few years, and I didn't write them with any intention of releasing them to the public. I more just thought I need songs to work on and sing. So when
Mm.
20 people joined me on this retreat, it was really, really special. I can remember the first time we launched into a song and 20 voices all start singing this song that has
Mm.
been literally my island song, right? Like, Remembers Me was one of the songs of God just remembering us in our hard suffering and hard things we go through. And suddenly to have 20 voices resonating with a song that only I had been singing on my couch, it was remarkably powerful. It's
Mm.
hard to describe, and that happened with all the songs in different ways that we did that weekend. And I came into the weekend sort of thinking maybe we'll just record some songs and I'll put that on the album, like people singing it. But it became this really deep weekend that I knew right off, really within an hour, that we just had to sing these songs together, sing them over and over, do some video, and capture a really special collaboration of us singing these true things to each other. And yeah, it was. I mean, I haven't been on a much more. I can't remember a more powerful weekend, and you know, it was extremely. I came back to the city after that weekend, and I just had so much joy and energy to start working on the project,
Mm.
and that's what collaboration can do, right? It can sort of feed. As artists, we can go up and down, and sometimes we're like, "Oh, this is terrible," and sometimes oh, this is great, and it's not. And there's all these things, and when we're with other artists, we start to see more clearly as they sing and give some feedback and share their own story. We start to see where this might fit,
Mhm.
and I think that's tremendously important in making art. Having every project I've been involved with, I will send it off to a few people, and sometimes I don't get any feedback, and that might mean it's not that great. Um, but other times you get all this wonderful stuff pouring in, and you're like, oh. And my last thing I'll say is this new Psalms volume. A good example is even with my wife. I don't often play her all my songs because she has to put up with all my music, day and night, which can be annoying. But I was struggling. I was this close to sort of pulling the plug on the Psalms Volume 3, and just saying, you know what, I gotta do something else right now. I just wasn't feeling it. I had some decent songs, but I just didn't know if there was enough there. And so we went on this trip to Florida. We were driving, and I finally had the right moment where everything was quiet in the car, and we'd already talked for a while. And so I said, do you want to hear these songs? She's like, okay. So I played through them, and thinking the whole time, like, oh, I don't know, is it any good? And then a few times I looked over and she had like tears streaming down her cheek.
Mm.
Um, and then other times, there was maybe songs also that didn't resonate. She's like, well, I don't think you can say that and this and this.
Yeah.
So, having voices back, hearing our stuff, working on it with us, coming with new ideas, questioning our ideas, like this stuff is just crucial in making beautiful art.
Yeah. There's a few things that really stand out to me, Mike, about what you just said. First of all, there's a special place in heaven for the spouses of artists because there needs to be for all the things that they put up with on a day-to-day basis. There's a special place, I'm sure of it. Or, more jewels in their crown. Um, but the idea of creation and community, because that's what collaboration truly is, right? It it means that we have to be vulnerable and open, and it means that we have to be like ready to receive, but the trust, right? That building of trust with other people is so important. And that really just struck me about how you have intentionally, throughout your life and in your career, surrounded yourself with people that you can trust. So when you hear what they have to say, you know that it's coming from a place of love, even if it's not what you want to hear. And I just think that that's so important. And how like God to be like the best things come out of community.
Right.
And that's one of the things I love about film. I love about theater is like, yeah, you can kind of do them on your own in your own little silo, but like the best ones are done with a director, with a really great DP, with someone else to record your audio. Like when you have that collaboration community working together, that buy into that goal and that vision of that, whatever the project is, there's new levels of beauty. And I think, our Psalms microfilms are a testament to your willingness to collaborate, collaborate with us, collaborate with the performer, even though they weren't in the same room with you, collaborate with Jason and hear what he had to say. And just such beauty.
Put up with my
truly,
crazy.
truly
Why do we try this?
And with all of our Psalms, when we've pulled in Tad and we've pulled in Brian to have these kinds of behind the scenes conversations with them, we watched a little bit of a Psalm that was meaningful to them. But because you're sitting at your piano, and you already touched it once in this interview, in this conversation, I would really just love to maybe for you to play something that's on your heart right now before we close. Like, as you think about Psalm 139, maybe with where you're at, however you want to kind of take it, but like, is there like 30 seconds that you could play for us of something that's just coming out from within you?
Yeah, I'll try. I have no idea what I'm going to play, so that's always a good starting spot, right?
Perfect.
Yeah. This is exciting.
Perfect. And I mean, can I say too before I do? I've learned a lot from Jason, you, and the theater crowd on collaboration because you guys are used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a lot of musicians, not all, like some are quite very good collaborators, as I think, but I can speak for myself. Like the tendency is to do your own thing. So I've learned a lot too about like through practices and how you want people in the same room, Jason, like stuff like that, like that we wouldn't always do. But anyway, it's really good. All right, so I call this collaboration. No, I don't know.
Love it.
Wow.
Oh my
Love it.
goodness. That was
Thank
so
you.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It'll be
Well,
different every
thank you,
time.
Mike, so much. Thank you for thank you for being generous with your time and having this conversation with Jason and I. Thank you for all of your work on all of our projects. For those of you that don't know, if you didn't catch it in the conversation, Mike has collaborated with us on our Christmas Hush live performance in Breathe, both the stage and film version. So if you go over to our website and you purchase from our online store, Breathe, you can get it as a digital download. You will experience Mike in that film because it's just him and Jason that are in that. And Mike
And the Prodigal Trilogy.
You're so
film.
And the Prodigal Trilogy. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for your ongoing partnership with us, for working with us. We have more projects in the works, hopefully with you too. And we just are so looking forward to them. Yeah. Thank you.
My pleasure. And thanks. Great to have a conversation. Like Jason said, we could probably go on for a long time, but thanks for including me in this wonderful project.
Yeah. Well,
so good, man.
So
good.
Well, we're going to leave the conversation here until next time when we come back with another artist, with another conversation. Maybe we'll bring Mike back. This is not our first conversation with him, and we just love hanging out. So until next time, we'll see you all later.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Krystle.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.